Welcome to the deep dive. You've brought us excerpts from Hermann Hesse's Siddhartha, specifically Chapter 7, Sansara, along with some really fascinating analytical points.
That's right.
So our mission today is to explore Siddhartha's immersion into worldly life and, well, that pivotal moment he starts to recognize its inherent emptiness.
Exactly. We're looking at the chapter itself, plus those highlighted ideas of interest and topics worth investigating.
Yeah, and those clearly signal your interest in understanding personal transformation, the true nature of happiness, and maybe how easily we can get, tangled up in the material world.
Definitely.
Okay, let's dive in.
It's striking, isn't it? Even as Siddhartha gains all this worldly success, this feeling of envy pops up when he watches the childlike people.
Right. He's got wealth, influence, Kamal's affection, but he still longs for something he sees in them. He notes their ability to attach importance to their lives, the passion in their joys and fears, that sweet happiness of being constantly in love. It's like he's there, but detached, unable to really feel it like they do.
Yeah, he's always the observer, even when he's right in the middle of it. And this really ties into the fading of his inward voice,
That divine voice in his own heart.
Right. The text mentions it came about when he was without teachings and without teachers, pure intuition. And you brought up the question, is this voice the same as conscience?
It's a really good point to dig into because conscience often feels, well, shaped by outside rules, doesn't it? What we learn is right or wrong. But this inward voice feels deeper, more primal, like a connection to his true self.
That's a crucial distinction, I think. This inward voice seems like a deeper intrinsic knowing, an alignment with his core, whereas conscience is often, like you said, socially conditioned. And as Siddhartha gets deeper into the world, this inner guide becomes fleeting, distant, and quiet. It's almost like the noise of Sansara just drowns it out.
So less a moral compass from society, more an inner truth.
Exactly. An intuitive wisdom that was there before all the rules.
And speaking of getting deeper in, let's talk about his wealth. It's kind of paradoxical how it goes from maybe a tool or even a game to a real burden.
It really is. Especially since most people are actively chasing wealth. That's where it gets really thought-provoking.
Yeah.
It really shows that paradox, doesn't it? What we chase for freedom can, if we get attached, become the very chains that bind us. At first he was detached, maybe just exploring, but then the attachment creeps in, and it's gradual.
So managing the stuff, the power, it starts to weigh on him.
Absolutely. It creates anxiety, even makes him compromise his values, like getting impatient with people who owe him money. The tools become shackles.
It's like the means just became the end. And, well, that end wasn't satisfying. And even while he's living this rich life, the text mentions traces of his old ways remain, right?
Yeah, things like moderate living, joy of thinking, hours of meditation, secret knowledge of the self.
Yeah.
But they're
Submerged and had gathered dust.
exactly. It shows how easily even really deep practices can get eroded when you're soaked in a different kind of life.
That potter's wheel analogy you brought up is spot on here.
It really is. Yeah. His inner self, once spinning fast with asceticism and thinking, keeps going, but slower. Slower, almost stopping.
Wow, yeah. That's a powerful image. And for you, the listener, interested in knowledge without overwhelm, it's a strong reminder of how external stuff can just cloud our inner clarity.
Definitely. Siddhartha loses that clarity he had.
And this inner decline, it leads to him feeling more miserable than those childlike people he initially felt superior to.
Right. He loses his peace, gets angry, impatient, catches that disease of the soul, which rich people have, as the text puts it.
It's a total flip from where he started, isn't it? He wanted something deeper than their simple lives, but chasing worldly experience actually made him less happy.
The external success just hides this growing emptiness inside.
Well, they find contentment in simple things, connections.
Exactly. They're content with family, maybe even their stuff. But Siddhartha, with so much more, just feels hollow, disillusioned.
Let's switch gears a bit to Kamala. It's interesting that she kind of expected him to leave without saying goodbye. What does that tell us about them?
Well, it raises questions about their bond, doesn't it? Suggests maybe a certain understanding and acceptance of impermanence.
Like it was always meant to be temporary.
Possibly. Maybe Kamala always saw their relationship as just one phase in his bigger journey, not necessarily expecting a forever kind of commitment.
And then she lets the golden songbird go. That feels really symbolic. What's your take?
Oh, definitely symbolic. And maybe in a few ways. The bird, beautiful but caged.
Mm.
Could be Siddhartha's spirit, right? Trapped by all the luxury. So her freeing it might be acknowledging his true nature, his need for freedom. Or maybe it's her letting go of her own attachment to him, closing that chapter.
That makes sense. A couple of layers there. Now let's go back to that potter's wheel analogy in Sansara you mentioned. Can we unpack that a bit more?
Sure. The text explains it well. The wheel's initial spin, that's his past spiritual training, right? That energy carried him for a while, even into the world. But as he got sucked into Sansara, the money, the pleasure, the power, that spiritual momentum just slowed down, faded.
And this links to Tarthang Tulku's idea of Sansara being endlessly repeating patterns of thought.
Precisely. Karthang Tulku, he's a contemporary Buddhist teacher, talks about Sansara like that.
Yeah.
Without awareness, we just get stuck in these loops.
Trapped.
Yeah, trapped by our thoughts, by the outside world. Just like Siddhartha got trapped by craving more stuff, more fleeting pleasure. The wheel slowing down mirrors that perfectly, that initial spiritual drive just vanishing.
It feels like being caught on a hamster wheel, almost. I think, a lot of us can relate to that feeling, especially with modern life. Information overload. Just going in circles sometimes.
That's a key connection, definitely.
Yeah.
And it makes us think about, well, the objective signs of Sansara in our world today. We see echoes of Siddhartha everywhere, don't we?
Absolutely. The nonstop chase for wealth. That's consumerism, isn't it? Always needing the next thing, the better thing.
Right. And sensual pleasure. Look at media, the way people are objectified sometimes, power games in corporations, politics.
And fleeting pleasures, social media validation, impulse buys, that quick hit.
All modern versions of the same patterns that caught Siddhartha. And it makes you, the listener, think. What patterns, what games, as Siddhartha calls them later, might you be playing, maybe without even realizing it?
Now, one of the most intense lines in this chapter, Hess writes, "Never before had it become so strangely clear to Siddhartha how closely lust was akin to death." Wow, that's heavy.
It really is. And Susan Sontag's quote you pulled adds to that, calling sexuality a demonic force linked to dangerous desires, even a yearning for the extinction of one's consciousness, for death itself.
So the intensity of lust, it mirrors the oblivion of death, like a temporary loss of self.
That's one reading. Sontag suggests it hints at our mortality. Psychoanalysts, maybe like Freud, might talk about eros, the life drive, and thanatos, the death drive, being intertwined. That intense surrender in passion could unconsciously echo the final surrender.
And for Siddhartha, this hits him when he looks at Kamala, right? Sees the signs of aging, that inscription reminiscent of autumn and old age. He sees gray hairs on himself, too.
Exactly. It's that stark reminder of impermanence hitting him right in the middle of intense passion. Beauty fades, youth passes. It forces the reality of decay and death into view. And then there's the dream.
Ah, yes. The dream of the songbird, mute and dead in its golden cage. That must have been shattering.
A powerful symbol of loss, for sure. The bird was vibrant, singing, now it's lifeless. It represents the death of his own inner voice, his spiritual core.
And he feels he threw away all value and everything good by discarding it.
Yeah, it highlights how deeply he feels he's lost his spiritual self. It's profound.
And that dream, it's the catalyst, isn't it? He wakes up feeling totally worthless, empty, and then he makes that symbolic farewell.
To the mango tree, the garden, the city, his stuff. Basically, his whole Sansara life.
It's a clean break. He recognizes, like the text says, the game was over. He just can't play anymore.
That's the turning point, a decisive departure.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what are the main takeaways for you, our listener, listening in?
Well, I think Siddhartha's journey here is a really potent look at how seductive the world can be. You know, how easily it can pull us away from our inner compass.
Chasing external things, temporary highs. It can just cloud that deeper intuition.
Right. And it can leave us feeling empty, even if we look successful on the outside.
So that game of Sansara, it might offer quick thrills, but for Siddhartha, it ultimately led to disillusionment.
Absolutely. And it makes us ask, maybe makes you ask, what games might you be caught up in, maybe without fully realizing it? And what would it take to notice, to step back and reconnect with your own inward voice, that deeper self?
That's a really powerful thought to leave with. Siddhartha went looking for enlightenment, got lost in the world. What does his story tell us about balancing, engaging with life while still holding on to some inner detachment, especially when you're trying to learn and grow without getting lost yourself?
A crucial balance to consider.
Thank you for taking this deep dive with us into these incredibly rich sources. We really encourage you to keep exploring these big themes in your own life.